London. No, there's no place like London.
And that is why you're the perfect person to do this review with me.
You do know that I don't live in London, right?
I do now.
Oh, come on, man. It's not like I hear New York, New York and think of you just because you're in America.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Although I wonder. Do you know which state of the US that I do live in?
I'm going to go ahead and say not New York.
Well, you're not wrong. Anyway, what do you say? Are you in?
Am I in? Hello there, I'm Rellik, and I made the following intro sequence.
Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. I remember this movie's release well enough because the advertising was relentless. Alas, I was 13 and not allowed to watch rated R movies yet. Yeah, go ahead, mock me. I saw some of it while in high school. I played Sweeney Todd for a corn maze, and I got to see the stage version a few years back. Yet despite all of that experience, this is the very first time I'll be watching the movie start to finish.
The main thing that interested me in this film is Tim Burton directing a musical. I know he was involved in Nightmare Before Christmas, but that was generally quite jovial and upbeat. This was a serious melodrama with more adult themes and lyrics, so it's a peculiar little matchup going on here.
And just one final heads up, I won't be comparing this to the stage version. With that out of the way, let's take a look at Sweeney Todd. The opening credits preview some of the environments we'll be spending time in, blood flowing smoothly across their surfaces.
I know people really like this opening cutscene, but to me the CG always felt on par with a PS2 cutscene. There's also an instrumental version of The Ballad of Sweeney Todd, probably so Johnny Depp wouldn't have to raise his voice too much, which is kinda disappointing.
Also, does that blood look like cherry Dr. Pepper to anyone else? A boat approaches the harbor, carrying our titular character as well as Anthony.
Anthony is played by Jamie Campbell-Bower, a beautiful man whose example we should all strive to match.
Everything all right, Mr. Todd? I beg your indulgence, Anthony.
There was a barber and his wife, and she was beautiful. A pious vulture of the law, who with a gesture of his claw removed the barber from his plate. So soft, so young, so lost and oh so beautiful.
Another PS2 cutscene flies us through the streets to a pie shop owned by Mrs. Lovett, who's played by Helena Bonham. My husband is the director, so I can get work everywhere, even though I don't belong in the role Carter.
Rellik, Tim and Helena got divorced quite a while back.
They did? Well, that's ruined my whole joke then, hasn't it? Anyway, she goes ahead and sings a pessimistic song about her business.
Is that just disgusting? You have to concede it. It's nothing but frosting. You drink this, you made it. The worst pies in London.
Miss Lovett, while I do commend you for the effort, a musical number is definitely not going to help your business at this juncture, which you seem well aware of.
She just needs a little constructive criticism. Positive, good location for retail. Negative, worst pies in London. Positive, no one's died making her hate. We'll come back to that one. Hang on to that.
Lovett offers Todd the room, telling him about what happened to the previous tenant, who just so happened to be Todd's wife, Lucy.
She must come straight to his house tonight. Poor thing, poor thing. They figured she had to be daft, you see. So all of them stood there and laughed, you see. Poor thing.
Getting Barker out of the way to steal his family was one thing, Turpin. One thing that was already over the line, but now, sir, I eagerly await your death.
Where is my wife?
She poisoned herself.
Well, I can't say the years have been particularly kind to you, Mr. Barker.
No. That man is dead. It's Todd now. Sweeney Todd.
Clearly infatuated with him, she reveals that she's kept his old razors hidden in the floorboards.
Locked out of sight all these years, like me, my friend.
I love this song. The dual meaning alone is wonderful. Todd comes home with his former life as Benjamin Barker gone, except this one tie to his past. Meanwhile, Lovett expresses longing from just over his shoulder, forlorn that Todd is so enamored with his razors and the thought of revenge that he doesn't even take notice of her.
If you only
Now,
Mr. Todd,
with a sigh,
Mr. Todd, you're warm
in my hand.
And what else can I say? What about you, Rellik? Anything to add?
No, fuck you. The scene's great. Done.
Point taken, you didn't have to say it like that.
Although Todd does notice Lovett once.
Leave me.
The broken focus is kind of funny. It's like, oi, do you mind? I'm having a revenge fantasy here. Can't do that with you all up on my grill, man.
At last, my arm is complete again.
Now listen to that again, without me adjusting the audio levels.
My arm is complete again.
I get that a musical should emphasize the music, but there is way too much of a gap in volume between that and the dialogue. Loud is fine, but have a manageable spectrum of audio. I had to turn down the intake volume on my video capture software just so it wouldn't distort whenever the music started swelling up.
Anthony comes by Judge Turpin's house, spotting his ward, Joanna Barker, singing about caged birds.
Greenfinch and linnet bird, nightingale, blackbird, how is it you sing?
Well, it's funny you mentioned Blackbird, because that just so happens to be the name of a poem in my book, For We Are Slain, available at all good Amazon sites. Buy now while stocks last. And they will.
I don't care if it's a shameless plug. He made me a title sequence, you guys.
While Anthony's actor is a beautiful man, the character comes off as weird. He gets one look at Joanna and fully devotes himself to her.
I'll steal you, Joanna. I'll steal you.
Alright, slow the fuck down, cowboy. I mean, how is this anything other than predatory? If Turpin wasn't pure scum, you might even say roughing the guy up was just good parenting. And hell, maybe it still is.
Can I please have my bag back? Thank you. I'll steal you, Joanna.
No, stop. You just got the crap kicked out of you. Your lungs are in no position to be doing this.
Good fucking god, he's still going? And with the blood dripping down his face, it's even creepier. Ugh. Todd and Lovett hit the streets and find Pirelli, who's more of a showman than a proper barber, after challenging an elixir of his.
It was nothing but an errant fraud, concocted from piss and ink.
The two settle it with a shaving competition, which could be the most British standoff you could have. Shame these guys have to listen to Senor Sanchez sing his little heart out about how great he is just to get a little stubble off their faces. My hairdresser met Miley Cyrus once, and now he breaks into a rendition of Wrecking Ball every time I go in there. That's why my hair's so long.
I'm just glad that these aren't the only tools we have for shaving anymore. We still have shaving cream and manual razors, but they're more or less optional now. Plus, it's much easier not to cut your face if you're using an electric razor.
The winner is Todd!
And I can guarantee to give you without a penny's charge the closest shave you will ever know.
Oh, I see what you're getting at, Todd. You're referencing that old coffee commercial made by Jim Henson.
Do you drink Wilkins coffee? Never. My friend, this is going to be the closest shave you've ever had.
Bit of a dated reference, though. Or maybe for you it's ahead of its time. After a moment of impatience punctuated by a song,
Oh, wait. Love, wait.
Pirelli walks into Todd's shop.
I'll be taking off your profits from here with Mr. Benjamin Barker. You don't remember me, do you? Why should you? I was just a little nippy hard for a couple of weeks sweeping up hair. You might say that you was inspiration to me.
He inspired you? And you ended up as a showboating faux Italian clown?
So Todd offers Pirelli some tea. London hospitality at its finest. Lovett distracts Toby, Pirelli's abused assistant, with booze, which works appropriately well.
Leave the bottle.
That'd sell me. Since Pirelli knew Todd's identity, Lovett brushes it off and steals the man's coin purse. Then they keep Pirelli's death a secret and bribe Toby to stay with more booze.
Thank you, sir.
Turpin sentences a hungry, thieving child to death, just in case you thought there was anything redeemable about him. Again, London hospitality. He decides he wants to marry Joanna, but can't discern why she seems uneasy about the idea. My guess? She read Half-Blood Prince.
To increase Turpin's romantic prospects, Beadle recommends that he visit Todd for a shave.
His name is Todd, my lord, and he is the very last word in Barber.
That's a very bold claim to make, especially considering he hasn't been in town more than a week. Turpin follows that advice, and the song Pretty Women begins.
Pretty women blowing out their candles, oh, coming out their
Another duet with dual meaning. Gotta love them. They're singing about the same two women, Lucy and Joanna, but from completely different perspectives, and yet they're in perfect harmony. But I gotta wonder, did Turpin fall asleep for a second? Because he didn't react at all when Todd said this.
Enjoy it. Revenge can't be taken in haste.
And yet Todd says this.
Pretty as a rosebud.
Pretty as a lover.
And he does take notice. Yes, that one's more personal, but the other one has much greater cause for alarm.
But it doesn't really matter, as this revenge is not ready to be done yet. Anthony spoke to Todd early about hiding Joanna so they could run away together, upon which Todd was going to kill him and get his daughter back. Instead, Anthony barges in before Todd can murder Turpin, blowing their cover.
I'll make sure that neither you nor any other man shall ever set eyes on her again. It's all too clear what company you keep. Service them well and hold their custom. They all have none of mine.
Then follows my second favourite song of the film, Epiphany.
The lives of the wicked should be made brief, for the rest of us death will be a relief. We all deserve to die.
Todd is totally crazed and in full swing of vengeance against the world for the misery caused mostly by one person. And he imagines himself on the streets of London inviting victims for a shave.
Who, sir? You, sir? No one's in the chair. Come on, come on. Sweeney's waiting. I want you, bleeders.
It's only the midpoint of the film, but this really knocks it out of the park for me.
And yet, for all that crazed energy, it drops off very suddenly in the aftermath. Based on the way Lovett's looking at him right now, I'm gonna interpret that Todd was doing the routine from in his head in the actual room. Then, since a murderous barber isn't quite creepy enough, forced cannibalism is thrown into the mix when Lovett suggests disposing of the bodies by making them into pies.
Awful lot of fat.
Only where it's at.
Haven't you got poet or something like that?
Now you see the trouble with poet is how do you know it's deceased? Try the priest.
I like this song a lot, but the performance has always seemed a little mild, especially considering that this just followed Epiphany. Though that tone could make sense if you interpret this as Todd and Lovett scouting for people to swing with. No? Just me. Okay. Turpin confronts Joanna about her lack of willingness to marry him.
A gentleman knocks before entering a lady's room.
Indeed he does, but I see no lady.
Oh, shit! Oh! Fucking burn! Take a seat, bitch! I tell ya, Lovett could cook endless pies with the sheer heat coming off of Turpin right now.
Turpin sends her to an insane asylum, distressing Anthony.
Where are you taking her? Tell me or I swear off! You killed me, boy! Here I stand!
Oh, fuck off, little bitch. Turpin ain't scared of you, not with the fire he's dropping.
Okay, buddy, bring it down. Bring it down.
Perhaps now would be a good time to confess that I have been drinking a little bit.
For the new business venture, Todd builds a special barber's chair. This cues up a different take on the song Joanna. Todd drops his victims into the cellar to become pies, in tandem with Anthony following the carriage that took Joanna away.
I think we shall not meet again, my little dove, my sweet Joanna. you're gone and yet you're mine.
It might just be me, but I always thought this song implied that Todd was thinking about killing Joanna. He talks of her like she'd be too painful to behold, looking too much like her mother, and how dearly he holds the memory of her. It's like he wants to have no memory of her but the one he knew years ago.
If only angels could prevail, we'd be the way we were.
Again, it might just be me, but it adds a neat little layer of creepiness and psychopathy to this whole thing.
I won't argue with you on that, but I see the holding her memory dearly part more like Todd is accepting that he won't see her again, clinging to the past for comfort, but letting go of her in the present.
I think I miss you less and less as every day goes by.
And based on the blocking, it's like he's projecting his affections for Joanna onto his razors instead, which is also really creepy. Meanwhile, Antony's singing comes off as less creepy this time around, and we also get a dash of the crazy beggar woman suspecting foul play.
Witch, witch, smell it, sir, an evil smell. Every night at the Vespers bell, smoke that comes from the mouth of hell, set it on fire.
The business of incognito cannibalism is booming, so this twisted miracle of a family unit takes a vacation to the set of a completely different movie, where Todd is still wondering about how to kill Turpin. But instead, Lovett starts a song sequence fantasizing about them having a future together.
You and me, Mr. T, we could be alone in a house where we'd almost go down by the sea.
Anything you say.
And if you haven't thought much about Todd being mopey and miserable throughout 90% of the film, that quality steals the show during this song, and I love it so much.
But then, Todd's excuse to get at the judge walks through the door.
He has her locked in a madhouse. I've circled the place a dozen times. There's no way in. It's a fortress.
Got him.
And so, a master plan comes together. Step 1. Disguise Antony as a wigmaker's apprentice so he can be allowed into the asylum to collect hair, rescuing Joanna in the process. Step 2. Have him bring her to the shop that night. Step 3. Send a letter to Turpin saying Antony abducted Joanna and will be bringing her there. Step 4. Murder. But while waiting for each step to take place, he's got a little bit of time for some brooding. After Toby delivers Turpin's letter, he delivers this musical number to Miss Lovett, showing his gratitude for the affection that she's given him.
Nothing can harm you, not while I'm around.
Okay, slow down there, Scrappy-Doo. That's a really sweet gesture and a really sweet song to go with it, but you are a kid. What exactly do you propose that you can protect Lovett from?
I don't need to, I will never hide a thing from you, like so.
That's Signor Pirelli's purse.
No, it's not.
That proves it. We gotta go, Mum. We gotta find the beetle and get the law here.
Well, shoot. He's got a brain.
You sure about that? Right after he became suspicious of Todd, Toby doesn't bat an eye at being led into a basement to be shown how to make pies. A basement that locks from the outside. But sure, Toby's got his ways. Ways of signing a death warrant, maybe.
Yeah, point taken.
And speaking of dumbasses, how about the asylum inmates ganging up on their caretaker only after Joanna is rescued? It's all of them against one guy. I mean, hello?
Well, this is an asylum. Their spirits were probably broken a long time ago, and this is just the inspiration they needed to fight back.
Well, that doesn't change things much. Insanity and stupidity are not mutually exclusive. Beadle arrives on business, getting reports about the smell from the chimney, so naturally Todd woos him into the chair, which gets timed right alongside Toby figuring out their dirty little secret. You know what? Fuck it. Let's make it a party. Bring in the beggar.
Don't I know you, mister?
Mr. Todd?
Oh, and last but not least, the man who spits pure fire. Judge Turpin.
Your lesson was well learned. She speaks only of you, longing for forgiveness.
Pretty women.
Pretty women, yes.
Joanna, Joanna.
Pretty women are a wonder.
As much as I love the dramatic benefit of having a reprise, the segue into this one was very hasty. I think they should have smoothed it out a little.
I suppose the face of a barber, the face of a prisoner in the dock, is not particularly memorable.
Benjamin Barker. Benjamin Barker!
Come on, Todd, you're making a mess. In all seriousness, it's good that most of the other murders were performed calmly and with a little more grace, but this one is imbued with Todd losing his cool and going absolutely nuts on Turpin. Not unlike what happened when Luke let loose against Darth Vader in Return of the Jedi. Just a great moment defined by a pure, raw expression of emotion.
Alright, who's next? We gotta keep the party going. Joanna, who was hiding in the trunk. See, my theory's got some merit to it.
But he doesn't know this is Joanna. Doesn't your theory involve him knowing that it's her?
I said some merit. Just let me be happy. Starting to see why Tyler ran off with another woman.
Another implies that there are two women in that scenario.
Oh yeah. I'm looking at one of them.
Technically, you're looking at a camera.
Oh, piss off. After hearing Lovett scream, plot convenience spares Joanna as Todd goes down to the cellar to help dispose of the two bodies.
You knew she lived.
So the beggar was Todd's wife. I didn't see it coming, to be honest. Mostly because this character was just kept in the movie's peripheral. It was foreshadowed only when Lucy asked Todd if they'd met before. Other than that, this twist was very well hidden. It's hard to pull wool over the viewer's eyes these days, so bully for them. And now, after all this build-up, I bet you're wondering how will it end. Well, that just so happens to be another poem in my book. Please, seriously, please buy it. Please, I have multiple children. And a stick up my ass I need surgery to remove.
You see, this time, I'm plugging it for a good cause.
You lied to me.
No, not lied at all. No, I never lied. Said she took a poison, she did. Never said that she cried.
Despite Lovett pulling out bullshit worthy of...
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
Todd takes this betrayal pretty well. Ish.
Alright, head count. Lucy's dead, Lovett's dead, Turpin and Beetle are dead. Toby has managed to slip away. Until now. Oh wow. He didn't even object. He actually lifted his neck a little, as if to say, go on then. I suppose when it comes to stories like this, it only makes sense to have a somber ending with most of its main characters dead. You are dead, right? You know, consciousness fading, brain activity ceasing, the motor functions of the arms holding up your wife's dead body shutting down. No? He's just gonna stay like that while you fade to black? Okay.
And so, all's well that ends well. Everyone's dead, and the one that isn't dead is traumatized for life. Tim Burton, everybody.
So that was Sweeney Todd. Though it does have a few things to riff on, the first time I sat down to take notes on it, I honestly didn't take that many. I guess musicals just have a way of entrancing me like that sometimes, but anyway, on to business. This film's presentation is marvelous, be it production design or the way its scenes play out. The songs and their purpose in the story are really enjoyable, where both the plainly stated elements and the subtext contribute profoundly to the story, providing differing and equally creepy interpretations of different parts. As with anything, some cracks start to appear when a bit more rational thought is applied, but as a darker themed visual and emotional experience and a musical to boot, I enjoyed it quite a bit. But when it comes to horror movies, my heart still belongs to the Saw franchise.
In some places, the Tim Burton style really shines and fits well with the story, but there are tropes of his that seem a little off, like Johnny Depp. I don't think he's doing a bad job, and speaking the lyrics more than singing them does suit nicely, but it feels like there could have been others better suited for this role. Same with Sacha Baron Cohen. He did fine, I just think anyone could have done it just as well. But then there's casting like Helena Bonham Carter and Timothy Spall, who are perfectly suited to this gothic 1800s setting. All in all, Sweeney Todd's a mixed bag for me, but it's a pleasant one with more things to praise than condemn.
And now that the splendor of its presentation has settled a little bit, I can take a look at the plot holes within.
How did Lovett know the details of Lucy's fate?
Lovett wasn't at the party, so who would have spread that information? Lucy couldn't have. Turpin surely didn't.
Lovett planned it all. Case closed. End of review.
Hey, that's my line. And we're not done just yet. The events that Lovett told Todd about were the truth, but Lovett was willing to lie, meaning what she did or didn't know was ultimately irrelevant, as long as she knew enough to spin a lie that Todd would believe.
Was the reprise of Toby's promotional song grounds for suspicion?
In a musical, the songs are part of the storytelling, so the rest of the world doesn't really acknowledge it. But promoting Pirelli's elixir was showmanship within the world of the film, meaning in theory, the song could exist independently of this being a musical. Therefore, it seems reasonable to assume that somebody in Pirelli's crowd that day would have visited the pie shop and recognized the same tune being used. Then again, Pirelli being a traveling showman, it's just as believable that few would bat an eye and anyone who did would be easy to lie to about it.
Why didn't Lovett get rid of Pirelli's purse?
Toby became a huge liability when he recognized that purse. With her recent success, Lovett could have easily bought a new purse. For someone whose business revolves around evidence disposal, this purse should have been pawned off, torched, or trashed ages ago.
Case closed.
Damn it, Rellik, stop trying to steal that line from me!
You've barely used that line since your first review. Do not act like it's your fucking catchphrase.
I'm sorry, who's the detective here?
I don't think that title really means anything when you give it to yourself.
Oh, come on, dude, that is completely irrelevant. The fact that I chose this for myself because, this is my show and I'm allowed to do what I want with it, shouldn't mean that it means anything less. It's hard enough getting respect for that title, what with all the wise asses I've had on my show
even though you don't bloody say those words. I just said it just now.
So, you know what?
Me, do not say those words, and you're writing them because you're stereotyping Londoners.
You let me be happy.
Silver's good enough for me.
A gentleman knocks before entering a lady's room.
Indeed he does, but I see no lady.